Historic buildings and structures play a special role in creating the distinctive character of each and every community. Their essential legacy of cultural, educational, recreational, aesthetic, social, and environmental benefits must be preserved and/or documented for present and future generations. The Louisiana Division of Historic Preservation's professionally trained staff work in the public's interest to recognize, revitalize, rehabilitate, and record the historic built environment in our state through the important programs and technical assistance offered. One of the most cost-effective tools available to encourage the rehabilitation and continued use of historic buildings is the Louisiana State Commercial Tax Credit Program. Today we're going to cover 6 state commercial tax credit topics. Those include the history and performance of the program, how to qualify, the threshold tests, the application, a project example, and additional resources and information. In 2002, the Louisiana legislature joined approximately 34 other states in creating a state tax credit program to assist in the rehabilitation of historic buildings located in downtown development districts used for income-producing purposes. The act provided a credit of 25% of rehab costs for buildings that were deemed eligible by the Louisiana Division of Historic Preservation. Initially, there was a very low per project cap, something like $250,000, but that was quickly eliminated and the program's success increased. In 2008, certified cultural districts were added as eligible areas and the program blew up. Cultural districts are approved through the Office of Cultural Development. The tremendous response to this program is due to multiple factors. Ever-expanding cultural districts, the credits may be stacked with the federal credits, there is currently no statewide cap on credits allowed, and the credits are fully transferable. And once credits are earned and entered into the Louisiana Department of Revenue's tax credit registry, there is no recapture. All of these factors lead to Louisiana's state commercial tax credit program being considered the platinum standard throughout the nation. Since 2002, this program has leveraged over $4.4 billion in direct investment in Louisiana's historic downtown development and certified cultural district. The economic impact generated by this program in just 1 year is tremendous. Last year, we had 537 applications processed, 166 buildings were rehabilitated and put back into productive commerce. Over 4,500 construction jobs were created or maintained, and we had a direct investment of over $435 million in Louisiana's historic income-producing properties. The State Commercial Tax Credit Program is currently set to sunset at the end of 2021. A compromise reached during the 2015 regular legislative session lowered the credit from 25% to 20% for those qualified rehab expenditures incurred after January 1st, 2018. In return, the sunset date of the program was extended and no statewide cap was introduced. Of course, each regular and special legislative session presents an opportunity to change the program. We'll continue to work to keep you abreast of any program changes as soon as we're aware of them, but please always check the Division of Historic Preservation's website, louisianahp.org, for the most up-to-date information. The program is administered through the Louisiana Division of Historic Preservation and the Louisiana Department of Revenue. We like to consider ourselves the building side of the program, and the LDR folks are the dollars side of the program. You've probably heard it said before, but if you have a question about windows or masonry, come talk to the historic preservation folks. If you have a question about audit reports or expenses, please talk to the folks at LDR. Like all incentive programs, the state commercial tax credit program has restrictions and requirements. The first requirement is that the building be located within the boundaries of a downtown development district or a certified cultural district. The second requirement is that the building be at least 50 years old. Since downtown development districts and cultural districts are not created based on their architectural catalog, we have established that the age of the building needs to be at least 50 years old to qualify for this program, but on a rolling timeline. Therefore, if your building was constructed in 1966, then the earliest you would have been able to apply for the state commercial program would have been 2016. If it was constructed in 1971, you would need to wait to apply until 2021. Now, if a building is less than 50 years old, it can be considered eligible for the state commercial tax credit program under two conditions. First, it must be located within a downtown development district or cultural district. And second, it must be individually listed in the National Register of Historic Places. The third consideration for qualification is that the building must still be recognizable as historic. That means that it hasn't been altered into some other appearance, like we see in this photograph. And that someone who visited the building from 50 years ago would still be able to recognize it today. The final consideration is, will this building be used for an income-producing purpose when the rehabilitation is completed? Its use can be rental residential, commercial, or even industrial. It just can't act as the owner's primary residence when the rehab is completed. So, to recap how to qualify, your building must be located in a cultural district or downtown development district. It needs to be at least 50 years old or individually listed in the National Register. It must still have its historic appearance, and when the rehabilitation is complete, it must have an income-producing use. So here's a threshold test haiku. Threshold test haiku. There are 3 of them, which you will learn about now. The first threshold is the value of the rehabilitation itself. Will you be spending at least $10,000 in qualified rehabilitation expenditures? This is the minimum you can spend and have a qualifying project. These QREs are usually pretty in line with the QREs listed for the federal program. With historic buildings, one roof replacement will usually meet this minimum expenditure requirement. The second threshold will be, is your project meeting the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation? There is a myth that is circulating that we somehow review projects differently or less stringently than our counterparts at the National Park Service. This is simply not true. First, if you are also applying for the federal credit for this project, it will in fact be reviewed by our National Park Service reviewer. Second, if you are only applying for the state commercial program, as many people do, we will review your project just the same as we review projects that we know will eventually make it to the National Park Service. This situation has happened on more than one occasion where an applicant applied only for the state commercial program through the Part 2 stage, then decided to go ahead and apply for the federal credit. While NPS's comments may differ from ours, our recommendations remain consistent. The third threshold is one that will rest solely within Louisiana Department of Revenue, the audit requirements. Be aware that based on your project totals, you will be required to provide varying levels of financial information to LDR before your credit is awarded. So to recap those threshold tests, You need to spend at least $10,000 in qualified rehabilitation expenditures. Your project must be completed according to the Secretary of the Interior standards. And your accounting must meet the Louisiana Department of Revenue's audit requirements. Now, the application process for the state commercial program follows pretty much the federal. It's a three-part application process where you make sure you have a qualifying building, you propose the work, and when the project's completed, you provide proof of that. But there are a few small differences. Keep in mind that with the state commercial program, the state is the final approving authority. There is an application fee due at the parts 2 and 3 that is paid directly to the state. And the time frame for a response from the state is around 30 days versus the 60 or more days when applying to the federal program. So here's an example in Lafayette. This is a warehouse, 114 Olivia Street in Lafayette. It was located in a cultural district. Before it was just a wholesale grocery warehouse. And a developer decided to go ahead and convert this into artists' lofts. And so here's our after. You can see that the historic character of the warehouse was retained while it was made compatible for its new modern use as those artists' lofts. The project was completed in 2014 when the credit was still at 25%, but for the sake of ease, let's look at their expenditures and their credit at the 20% level. So their total QREs were a little over $2.3 million, and at 20%, they looked at earning a $461,000 state commercial tax credit. And that kind of tax credit, especially when coupled with the federal 20% tax credit, really can make these projects work. Keep in mind that the credits awarded are capped at $5 million per investor, per district, per year. I'm sure that this makes the folks at LDR's life a little more difficult, but it keeps the credits capped while allowing for substantial program investment. These credits are fully transferable to anyone with a Louisiana tax liability. There's no minimum sale amount, and they can be transferred an unlimited number of times. Keep in mind, though, that they are good for the year in which the rehabilitation project is completed and placed in service, and that they can be carried forward for up to 5 years. Transferring the credit, however, does not extend the carry forward period. You do not need to have a Louisiana tax liability to earn a credit. This has opened the door for a number of Louisiana nonprofits to be able to earn and then sell the credit. And just a reminder, the credit is set to sunset at the end of 2021. It has always had a sunset, and it has always been extended. For more information on the State Commercial Tax Credit Program, for applications and guidance, please visit the Division of Historic Preservation's website at louisianahp.org and click on the Tax Incentives link. You can find our contact information there, so if you have any questions, feel free to shoot us an email or give us a call.